Okay, I warmly welcome you to FCL, Accountants Tuition Center YouTube channel. Luando Franklin is my name, the pioneer of FCL, Accountants Tuition Center, as well as the Chief Executive Director. I have vast experience in training of accountants. I've worked for several training institutions, including the Accountants Training College under ZCCM that time, situated in the Copper Belt in Chingola. In today's video, we are looking at impairment, that is IAS 36, impairment of cash generating units. So the focus will be the definition of impairment, definition of cash generating unit, and definition of value in use, the definition of recoverable amount, and also how to allocate the impairment loss in the cash generating unit. So those are the items that we are going to look at. So I'll get started with the definition of impairment. So impairment is under IAS 36. So IAS 36, impairment. So impairment occurs when the carrying value of a non-current asset exceeds its recoverable amount. Very important definition. So impairment occurs when the carrying value, abbreviation, the carrying value of a non-current asset exceeds its recoverable amount. That is very important. Now we go to the meaning of recoverable amount. The recoverable amount is the higher value, is the higher value of fair value less cost to sell and value in use. So that is the meaning of the term recoverable. So when we talk about fair value, less cost to sell, this is the market price of the asset. At how much can the asset be sold in the market? Less of costs associated with the sale, such as the agent fees, the commission. Those are costs to sell. Now, I want you to understand, I want you to understand the meaning of value in use. The value in use is the present value of the expected cash inflows from the use of the asset, including the disposal value. That is the value in use. Whichever is the higher, that will be the recoverable amount. So now we go to the definition for the cash generating unit. What is a cash generating unit? I will define the term cash generating unit and give examples. Cash generating unit, abbreviation CGU, is the smallest identifiable group of assets whose cash inflows are largely independent of other cash inflows from other assets. That is the definition of a cash generating unit. Now, what could be the examples? Examples can be a factory, two, a division, subsidiary, so among others, this would be the examples of a cash generating unit. Now, I want to explain the allocation of impairment loss in a cash generating unit. Allocation. Allocation of impairment loss. Impairment loss in the cash generating unit. It is very important to consider the factors surrounding the loss. First, I'm going to consider a situation where they are assets which are obviously impaired. Where there are assets which are obviously impaired, the allocation will be in this order. To those assets which are obviously impaired. Number two allocation will be to goodwill. To goodwill. Third allocation to other assets on a pro rata basis. To other assets on the pro rata basis. And that is the allocation. Then we can also consider the other circumstance or other situation where there are no assets that are obviously impaired. Where there are no assets which are obviously impaired, the allocation will be as follows. You can use this part. No asset or assets that are impaired. If there are no assets that are impaired, the allocation will be as follows. One, the first will go to goodwill. Number two, to other assets. To other assets on a pro rata basis. So we have two situations to consider every time when you are dealing with the impairment of a cash generating unit. So you have to check what is given in the question. Another very important point is that an asset cannot be reduced below its recoverable amount. Very important. An asset cannot be reduced by the impairment loss below its recoverable amount. So in the question, you have to check the recoverable amount of a non-current asset. The second point that you need to understand is that monetary assets are not impaired. So when we talk about monetary assets, we refer to inventories, receivables, cash. Those are monetary items, or rather current assets. So you do not allocate any loss to current assets because they are not impaired. They are outside the scope of IAS 36. So now we are going to look at a question together here. And this question is 38, impairment of assets. A cash generating unit comprises the following assets. So we have the buildings, 700, plant and equipment, 200, goodwill, 90, current assets, 20. So we cannot allocate any impairment loss to current assets. One of the machines carried at 40,000 is damaged and will have to be scrapped. So automatically we have the asset that is obviously impaired, and the first allocation will go to those assets which are obviously impaired, and then to goodwill, and then to other assets on a pro rata basis. The recoverable amount of the cash generating unit is estimated to be 750. What will be the carrying amount of the building? So they're only interested in the building. So in this case, the first thing to determine is to see whether there is an impairment or not by comparing. So the carrying value of the all cash generating unit, carrying value there is 10, is in thousands. The recoverable amount we are given. Recoverable amount, we have 750. So automatically there is an impairment loss because the carrying value exceeds its recoverable amount. So the issue is, why should you carry the cash generating unit at 1010 when you can only recover 750? That is an impairment. So the impairment there is 260. That is the impairment. Impairment loss. So this impairment loss must now be allocated. First, it will go to the plant and equipment because it is obviously impaired. Plant and equipment. Which is 200 less 40. So we have 160, which is remaining after the allocation of impairment. The second will go to goodwill. Goodwill, we have 90, less 90. Is 0. So now we need to check how much impairment loss is remaining. So we have impairment. Impairment loss is 260. We have allocated to plant and equipment. We have allocated 40. We have allocated to goodwill 90. So the balance is 130. So the balance of 130 will be allocated to other assets on a pro rata basis. So for plant and equipment, there's a balance, but the examiner hasn't indicated to us the balance was the recoverable amount. So we must also allocate to it. So we have the building. Building, 700. Plant and equipment, there was a balance of 160. So the total is 860. So now we are interested in the building. How much are we going to allocate to the building? So here divide by 860, multiply by 130. That is what we call on a pro rata basis. So there we have to the nearest 1,000. This will be 105. And now what will be the balance of the building? The balance of the building will be the building as, we can use this part. The building as 700 less 105. So when you round off, actually there it will be supposed to be 6. Because there was 8.8, so it becomes 6 to the nearest. So there we have 594 in thousands. So this will be the value after the impairment. And the correct answer there will be 594,000. So we have done the allocation of impairment loss in the cash generating unit. For today, we can end here. Please remember to subscribe and to hit the notification button so that you receive the latest videos at any time when they are available. Thank you for watching this video. God bless you.